Very good morning, and you're welcome to this morning's webinar, where we're going to explore the topic of rural entrepreneurship. And today is the second in the EURAGRI-led Webinar Series that aims to highlight and demonstrate the role of the entrepreneur in transforming sustainable farming systems, farming and food systems. So we're delighted to be partnering with EURAGRI and AFBI and SRUC in this initiative. And you're all very, very welcome to this morning's session from far and wide. We know we have some colleagues joining from across Europe as well, so you're very, very welcome. So why is it important that we support and promote rural entrepreneurship? Well, there are a number of reasons. Rural entrepreneurs contribute to economic growth by creating jobs, generating income, and stimulating local economies. Rural entrepreneurs often bring unique perspectives and ideas to the table, leading to innovation and diversification. And of course, by supporting rural entrepreneurs, we can help build resilient communities and making them less vulnerable to economic shocks and external pressures. And of course, they're just some of the examples and the reasons why it's so important that we foster and develop a culture of entrepreneurship across our rural areas. And we're very privileged to have a broad and expert group of panelists joining us today. From across Ireland, we have a number of rural entrepreneurs representing the ag tech sector, the agri-tourism sector, and the food sector. And I want to introduce you to our panelists before we get into the main part of our webinar this morning. And first off, I'd like to introduce Noelle Casey, who is an entrepreneur hailing from Killarney in the south of Ireland in County Kerry, with a deep-rooted passion for hospitality and a keen eye for business opportunities. Noelle has transformed her family's dairy farm into a thriving self-catering destination. Noelle, you're very welcome this morning.
Thank you, Mark. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Great. And we also have Teresa Roche, who is a leading entrepreneur and founder of Kylemore Farmhouse Cheeses, specializing in long-aged cheeses. And Teresa is passionate about empowering women in agriculture and revitalizing rural communities. And Teresa, you're very welcome to this morning's webinar.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. Great to be here. Thank you.
Delighted to have you here with us this morning. And Nick Cotter is a pioneering entrepreneur and co-founder of Cotter Agritech, who is revolutionizing the agricultural landscape with the cutting-edge technologies that are being developed from West Limerick. Nick, along with his brother, have embarked on a remarkable journey of entrepreneurship since their early years. Nick, you're very welcome.
Morning, Mark, and everyone on the call. Looking forward to the session.
Great, great. And finally, we have Barry Caslin, who is Rural Development and Energy Specialist with Teagasc, who has a rich background in farm advisory and a passion for fostering sustainable development. And Barry is coordinator of the Teagasc Farm Options Programme, which plays a vital role in supporting rural entrepreneurs in realising their business ideas and aspirations. Good morning, Barry.
Morning, Mark. Great to be here.
And I want to say a special thanks to Barry. Barry, you've been instrumental in the organisation of today's webinar, and also Owen Carton, who I know is joining us this morning. Owen is with EURAGRI, and our colleague Paul Maher has also been very, very much involved in the background. So our appreciation to all involved. And a shout out to Michelle Vell in the background, who's helping us with the production of today. So today's format, we're going to have a short presentation from Barry, who's going to give us an overview of rural entrepreneurship in Ireland. And then following that, we're going to have a panel discussion with Noelle, Nick, and Teresa. And we do welcome your questions. There is a Q&A at the tab at the bottom of the screen. And we'd ask you to use that for submitting your questions, and we'll attempt to put as many of those questions to our panel. If you have a question for a specific panel member, maybe just put their name in front of that question, and we will direct it to the person that you intended to go to. And today's session is being recorded, and we'll have that available on the Teagasc YouTube channel in the coming days. So Barry, we'll ask you to share your screen, and you're going to share some slides with us, and we will then go to our panel discussion after that. So while you're sharing there, Barry, just we'll have Barry's presentation available on the Teagasc YouTube channel or on the Teagasc website as well, and perhaps on the EURAGRI site also. And also to flag that this is part of a wider series, and there is another webinar taking place on the 9th of May, which will be looking at sustainable food systems, and we'll share more details about that afterwards. So Barry, we can see your slides perfectly there now, so we'll turn off our videos and we'll
Okay, Mark, thanks very much. And I'm just going to, and thanks very much, and good morning, everybody, and great to be here. And I see we have a very big international audience here with us today as well. So really, we're going to talk about the supports that's available for rural entrepreneurs in Ireland, which some of our entrepreneurs may have availed of in the past as well to get their business off the ground. I just want to start off by looking at the Teagasc Rural Development and the options program that's available there. It's run by our advisory network in the various Teagasc regions and called the Farm Business Options Program. And it's really about diversification in agriculture, innovation in agriculture, supporting that. Those events generally run in the back end of the year, which would be from September, maybe up to December. We run them in association with the local enterprise offices across Ireland. So local enterprise offices have a key role to play in enterprise development in Ireland. So they will be an integral part of the Teagasc Options Programme. We try and work with them as much as possible in creating, I suppose, that spirit of entrepreneurship, exposing farmers to the whole idea of doing something different with their assets, that's their land, their buildings, and their skills to maybe develop a new enterprise on their farm. So you can see more information about that there on that link there at the bottom. And of course, anybody that wants to join an options program that could maybe focus on food or different areas, they can contact their local Teagasc office to express an interest and to be on the list for the autumn series. These are the type of areas covered, maybe assessing your enterprise, developing your idea, food enterprise possibilities, energy crops, forestry, renewable energy, rural tourism, organic farming, developing a business plan, which is a key part of any business development, applying for grant aid, being aware of what supports are available for the businesses in your area as well will be very, very important here as well. I wanted to make our audience aware of Enterprise Ireland funding that's available for business development. They mainly focus on export-orientated businesses. So they do provide financial supports, innovation vouchers, research and development grants. There's funds, agile innovation funds there for research and development and for business innovation projects. So you can see there the type of expenditure that's available through Enterprise Ireland for anybody who's starting off a new enterprise. I also want to make people aware of the incubation program that's they're available throughout the country. And an incubator program is really a support system that's designed to help startup companies to grow, to succeed. The programs, they typically provide resources such as office space, mentoring, funding, networking opportunities, and access to professional services, maybe like legal, accountancy support. And incubator programs, they really operate within a fixed time frame, and that could be a few months, maybe to a couple of years. And the participants, they can get intensive support and maybe guidance during that time as well. And I suppose the real idea behind them is to accelerate the growth of these early stage companies, to help them to develop their products, their services, maybe to refine their business models, because some people might start off with a particular idea and they may just be exposed to maybe new thought process, new ideas, and they may refine their ideas and their business model. Those incubator programs are very good at helping people acquire new customers and maybe even to attract investment. And they can be sponsored by various organizations. You could have the likes of the universities, the big corporations. It could be government entities, like the Merits one that you see there. That's part of the local enterprise office in Kildare. So there's, I think they're a fantastic service that's available. So just to be aware of it. And there's an example of a few of them there on your screen at the moment. I also wanted to make you aware of the BIA Innovator Campus in Athenry in County Galway. It's really designed to support, and startups in the small food business area and agri-tech sectors as well. And the word BIA, for those of you who are international visitors here, it stands for food, or means food in Irish, and it reflects the program's focus on the innovation within the food industry. And the campus in Athenry, it provides a range of resources and support services that's tailored towards agri-tech startups. And that could include, you have access to very modern facilities, equipment, kitchens, there's mentorship, there's networking opportunities there as well, and funding assistance. So they offer real support, it's a real supportive environment, for industry. Anybody trying to start off something in the food industry, there's great industry expertise in the whole food area at the BIA Innovator Campus there in Athenry. I also wanted to make you aware of the the UCD AgTech program, and UCD stands for University College Dublin here in Ireland, and it's focused on agricultural technology, and it's often abbreviated as AgTech. And the program is really designed to support the innovation and the entrepreneurship in agriculture by providing resources, mentorship, networking opportunities to any startups and researchers who are working on cutting edge technologies here in Ireland. So they have incubation and acceleration facilities, they have research and development facilities, and you can see there they're some of the companies. There are 9 startups that began there, and one of our speakers here today, Nick Cotter, was one of those who were part of that AgTech program at UCD. So Nick will probably be talking about that after a while. I just wanted to make you aware of a company there called AgTech Ireland, and they address issues of sustainability in Irish agriculture. They partner with Enterprise Ireland. They can liaise with international buyer events, and so it's really a network of people who are involved in the AgTech world here in Ireland. They've stakeholders there across include farmers. It could be industry, government, research, finance. And it's all about skills training for their members. They're like a lobby group representing AgTech sector here in Ireland. So just that people are aware of that if you're going down that road. I also wanted to make you aware of the local enterprise offices here in Ireland. I mentioned them earlier. We do a lot of work with them within Teagasc in terms of running the Teagasc Options program, and they're kind of a first-stop shop for new entrepreneurs and existing micro enterprises that will be employing less than 10 people, so small business owners really. So it was established in 2014. They're part of the local authorities or the county councils here in Ireland, and they're partnered with the national body Enterprise Ireland. They have a national network, and there's 31 LEOs or local enterprise offices all over Ireland, where you can work with them and maybe get mentors for particular areas, whether it's on social media training or whether it's on building your website or whether it's on doing your business plan. There's fantastic resources and supports available with your local enterprise office, and they really offer businesses advisory services, enterprise support. They mentor small to medium-sized enterprises with experienced experts, or they're the mentors that are referred to earlier on. They provide direct financial supports to micro enterprises. They can advise on a large range of alternative funding options through the likes of Microfinance Ireland, and they can encourage and promote entrepreneurship in their counties or their functional areas. I think many of our entrepreneurs here today, Mark, as well, would have got funding or maybe sought funding from LEADER. So LEADER is funded through Pillar 2 of the Common Agricultural Policy. So it is probably the best funding resource available for people who are trying to diversify into a new area away from their core agricultural enterprise. So they provide capital investment, analysis and development or feasibility studies. They would provide grant support to develop a feasibility study or a business plan for your idea or your concept. They provide training. It's generally group training. And you can find details there of them. Their umbrella group is called the Irish Local Development Network, or the ILDN, and that's their website there underneath, ildn.ie. So anyone that wants to find their own local development network, you can go on that website and you'll find your body here in Ireland. I wanted to make you aware of the Food Accelerator Programme, FoodWorks Ireland. So the Food Accelerator Programme in Ireland it's an initiative aimed at supporting early stage food and drink startups in Ireland. So it provides a selected number of entrepreneurs each year with mentorship, with resources, and access to networks that can help to accelerate the growth of their business. So it's only a selected number. I think you have to be in business for within the last 2 years, so you have to be fairly new. But you have to have a clear idea in mind to get on that accelerator program. I also wanted to make people aware of the Teagasc food development unit between Ashtown and Moorpark, and there's fantastic services available from the food development unit there. They provide expertise. They can provide product development kitchens, especially in the likes of Moorpark, where you can prepare consumer foods centre and have access to that. There's regulatory approved processing plants. There's test laboratories. So people who are at the early stages and don't want to spend a lot of money on on a kitchen or facilities can test products, maybe new recipe development, and use the facilities that are in these facilities in both Ashtown and in Moorpark. They can have their products tested, maybe with a panel of tasters to see, independent tasters who will give an honest feedback on different products. So that's available as well, and help in terms of packaging and labeling and all that goes, all the various elements associated with developing a new food product. And of course, a lot of this will be done. We are linked to the BA Innovator in Athenry as well. So we have technicians in the BA Innovator as well from Teagasc who are providing that service there, and there's also kitchen space available there also in Athenry. And just coming to the end here, I just wanted to make people aware of social entrepreneurship in Ireland as well. There is a support group for social entrepreneurs who are trying to develop solutions to social problems and support them on every step of their journey. And they're funded and through generally a community of alumni and sector leaders. They would have an idea academy, a Spark program, an action lab, impact program, and a scaled partnership program and community program as well. So socialentrepreneurs.ie is the website for that network. So just to conclude, the best diversification projects complement the existing farm business. You shouldn't be taking from your core enterprise a lot of money out of it to develop your new enterprise that could suffer as a result of it. I think there's a wide range of supports available for rural entrepreneurs. There can be a lot of confusion though as regards who you should go to, and I know I'm quite aware of that people don't know who should I approach first when I want to develop my concept. And just to reiterate about the Teagasc Farm Business Options Programme, contact your local Teagasc office if you want to get involved in that programme. Have your name put down on a list with the local options coordinator. And there's no substitute for forward planning and looking at every aspect of the business and working with all the other bodies, like there's the local enterprise offices in your region as well, and making use of all of those resources. I'll leave it at that, Mark, and we can take any questions when you're ready.
Okay, thanks, Barry. And no, you gave a good overview of the different resources that are available and the infrastructure piece that's there. And I know that there are many other innovation hubs as well across Ireland beyond the BA Innovator to support food businesses across the country. How well connected are these different resources, Barry, for entrepreneurs, or is there a kind of a unique port or a starting point where entrepreneurs should start off?
Yeah, I suppose we try and have those connections at a county level with the local enterprise offices, for example, and through the options program, we would bring in those support agencies like the LEOs, like Intero, like Leader as well, local action groups. I think it's important that people are aware of it, and it can be very, very confusing at the start. Who should I go to? Who do I get the support from? Do I get my business plan support from Leader? Do I get it from the local enterprise office? And I think it's a combination of all. And I would say you can start off with your Teagasc office as maybe a sign for looking for the signpost to the other support services that are available and creating those linkages. Very often the local enterprise offices don't have the linkages with the agri sector. And I suppose Teagasc can be a conduit to link farmers up with those support agencies, whether that's Leader or whether that's local enterprise offices.
Okay, very good. Barry, we're going to delve into that in a more deeper way when we get into our panel discussion. But before we get into our panel discussion, I'd like to find out a little bit more about each of our entrepreneurs joining us this morning. And we have some videos and we also have a presentation from Noelle. So I might ask Noelle if you wanted to start off and introducing your business to us and a little bit about your story. You have a few slides to share with us, and we have a video from Teresa then and Nick then to explain a little bit about their businesses. And just a reminder to anybody who's just joined us, there is a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Please use that, and we will put your questions to our panel when we get to our discussion. So Noelle, if you'd like to share a few about your story.
Okay, perfect. Can you see that okay, Mark?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is just a few slides on, I suppose, the story of our farm and our business here in Killarney in County Kerry. So this is a picture here of our small dairy farm. And it's the Casey family farm, so we'd be at least a fourth generation family farm here in County Kerry. We're located outside the tourist town of Killarney. So Killarney itself is world renowned for its lakes and its mountains. So we're blessed that the farm is located just outside it. We'd have mixed quality pasture, so we wouldn't have the animals out on the land as much as you could, let's say, if you're up the country, just with the quality of the pasture that we have here. And we'd be milking about 30 cows and we'd have about 20 dry cattle. So we'd be a small enough enterprise. So just to give you a bit of background as regards our family and our farming income and our decision to diversify into self-catering and agri-tourism. So back in 2019, when we were planning for the future of our family and the farm, we were getting married in 2010, myself and my husband, Paddy. We had to decide what we could do for the family income going forward. And realistically for us, we would only be milking for 6 months of the year. So that would only be an income for 6 months of the year. So we decided, what could we do to kind of diversify and to bring in an extra income to the farm? The milk price at this time, if anybody can remember back then, was on the floor. There was a lot of environmental challenges to factor into our decision as well. So we came up with a plan of action. So we decided to invest differently into the farm by diversifying into tourism. So instead of maybe increasing our stock or increasing the number of sheds, we decided to renovate and build on a house that we could rent out to the tourist market. My own background before I met my husband was in hospitality, so I did believe there was a future for self-catering. We aimed it at the high end of the market. We applied for planning to kind of increase the size of the house that we were building, and we tried to incorporate sustainability where we could. So there's a geothermal heating system in the house itself, as one example. So this is the house that we built, and as you can see there, we incorporated into the farm. So anybody that was staying, they could literally go outside the patio there, you can see that on the left, and be right next to the animals, be as close to nature as they could be. So where we are now in 2024, we're successfully in business for over about 10 years now. We welcome domestic and international guests, particularly Americans, and the guests love to see the cows. That's the one thing that everybody would say to me, is just being able to literally reach out and touch the animals, be so close to nature, which I find is one of our unique selling points, our USP. And thank you for listening to me and to our story.
Thanks very much, Noelle. And next we have Teresa Roche, and I have a video that we have from Teresa. So if you could just maybe stop sharing your screen. I can do that here now. And I will just share Teresa's video. and we'll get an insight into the Kylemore Farmhouse Cheese story. Let's make sure that I have sound. Let's
Hello, my name is Teresa Roche. I'm the producer of Kylemore Farmhouse Cheese. I was really interested in diversifying on our family dairy farm to add value. I think it's really important for dairy farmers to look at opportunities within their own farming methods and style. I went to Switzerland, went to learn how to make cheese in the Swiss Alps, and I wanted to bring a product to Ireland and the UK that wasn't readily available on the shelves in the supermarkets. I decided at looking at specialty cheese making and specialist cheese products that are premium products, long aging, long maturing, with a long shelf life. The key component of what we do here is, first of all, it's our pedigree dairy herd, Holstein British Friesians. We're producing milk for 60 years. That milk is pumped directly at fresh blood temperature into our cheese vat, and it is pasteurized, and then we heat the curds, and then we add cultures and bacteria that ferment the milk. Then we mold it off into the structures, and then it spends 2 days in a brine tank, and then it's into the maturing room, where it takes time to feed the bacteria to them cheeses, so it generates a rind. So you could be waiting 3 to 4 months to get it, but you have to work every day in there. So I think the future is going to be the farm shops. We've had our farm shop now for 2 years, and this has been great to showcase the farming, but it's also for other farmers to come here. That's the ethos of our farm shop, is using suppliers who have their own products from their farms. We do international tours, and we work with universities and schools, showcasing our farm and our dairy and our cheese making. So I think the future is bright for women in agriculture, and it's a great time to be in farming. We can inspire each other by educating the children upwards. You know, if you start at the roots and you work your way up and inform and educate and showcase what we all can do together, there's opportunities there for everybody.
So thank you for that, Teresa, and it's congratulations as well on your RDS awards nominations as well. And so we're going to do a deeper dive in your story in a moment. But next, I'd like to just share a video about Nick, your story of Cotter Engineering, or Cotter Agritech, should I say? So I just bring that up here now. Now, okay.
My name is Nick Cotter. I am from West Limerick in the south of Ireland, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Cotter Agritech. The idea for Cotter Agritech started out about 6 years ago now. Because we're organic, we try to minimise disease on the farm, so we vaccinate. We had awful trouble handling our small young lambs. So this project really all started out of necessity. The first thing we developed was the hardware, which was this concept of holding the animal at your height so you can do all the jobs you need to do, be it vaccinating, vitamins and minerals, worming them. You know, controlling parasites is one of the biggest challenges facing sheep farmers globally, and it's the #1 production loss in livestock farming. Resistance development has been caused by going in and treating all the animals in a flock. Essentially, what our system does is we have an advanced algorithm built into our piece of software that identifies which animals will benefit from the treatment and which animals won't. And this reduces the drug use by about 40 to 50%, which is a game changer financially for farmers, but it also, from an environmental point of view, for us all. Our hope is that with this solution, we can make animal handling easier, faster and safer, and we can reduce the drug inputs going into agriculture. I've been given a gift where I was incredibly fortunate to be born into a family with 2 hugely inspirational parents that just support everything we do. I have a brother who wants to work on this journey with me together, so we don't have to do it alone. And I was born in that farming environment where we were encouraged to get up and get working.
His key quality is his ability to listen. He's really easy to work with, and he's a great sense of gratitude.
there is so much good in him. I think he can make a huge contribution to the world, not just within Ireland.
My dream for Cotter Agritech would be to be renowned in our field. And when somebody thinks agri-tech or agriculture, they think the Cotter brothers.
Very good. Very proud Irish mother there, Nick. So thank you for sharing your story, and I hope for our viewers that gives you a good insight into Noelle's, Teresa's, and Nick's stories. Noelle, maybe we could start with you. Just looking at your story there, you talked about the narrow production season within dairying, and why choose setting up a business over looking for a job in the hospitality sector, for example, or why stay within the farm?
Well, I suppose we wanted to run a kind of a family joint enterprise, and with hospitality, it can be, the hours can be very unsociable. It can be hardworking, and I suppose when we got engaged and we planned to get married, we wanted to have a family ourselves, and we wanted to marry the two. We wanted to marry farming and marry something that I could work at myself, and bring, I suppose, both our skill sets together. So that's why I decided to do it and set it up ourselves.
Very good. And in terms of your story to get to this point of having a successful business, could you tell us a little bit about the supports that you availed of, and maybe how did that part of the journey work out for you? Was it a straight line from idea to a successful business? I'm sure it like many, it's not always a straight line to success.
No, we took our time doing it. By the time we went for planning in 2009, I didn't really set about advertising the business in 2014. It took 5 to 6 years. We took our time doing everything because we were investing our own money. We didn't want to be taking out big loans that we'd have to repay, because we didn't know, when you're dealing with tourism, you don't know necessarily how busy a year would be, and whether you'd have the financial clout to pay back certain loans. So we took our time getting it right, setting it up, but we did it kind of off our own steam, and I knew kind of myself from my own experience that there was a market that we were looking for, and talking to different business people, and I suppose Teagasc as well, as regards diversifying, that we knew that would be a good plan, and thankfully it did pay off.
So your market research was, you had context, so you had a network there that you could maybe link into.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I'd worked in the area myself, in hospitality. I worked for a hotel where we had, let's say, houses on the site as well that we would rent off. So this is before the era of Airbnb, and I knew that there would be a market for self-catering going forward. Yeah.
And would you say, Noelle, that there was an inner confidence there that you had to drive this on? I mean,
we had to. I mean, if you think back in Ireland in the recession, people thought we were mad, because at that time there had been a bust, a financial crash. There was loads of houses in the country, and when we said that we were going to invest into building another house, people thought we were crazy, because they said, oh sure, there's loads of holiday homes all over the country, why would anybody go to yours? But I knew that there would be potential for a product that would have farming and agriculture at its core, because I do believe that as we go along, as the world progresses, people are getting far removed from the land themselves. I mean, I'm from the city originally myself. When I met my husband, I only knew the front end of a cow from the back end of a cow. That's all I knew. And I was half scared getting into a field with them, because you don't know, and it sounds daft, but did they bite? Do I stand behind them? Are they like horses? I didn't really have a clue. And I suppose I knew from that perspective, people were coming to stay. They wanted to kind of, get in touch with nature, but they wanted, a kind of an access point where there was still a fence. They could still be close, but they weren't too involved or too removed for it. And I thought it would take off, and thankfully it did.
Right. And obviously there was a risk involved there, that you were happy to take. And but I mean, it's not easy when you have so many people telling you you're crazy, and but yet you obviously had that inner conviction and drive to do this.
Yeah,
And
I'm lucky. Paddy backed me. I mean, we made a decision financially whether we would invest in that or invest in maybe more sheds or making the herd bigger. But where we are in Ireland as regards the quality of the land, we knew we couldn't do that in order to sustainable income going forward. And like at that time, the milk price was on the floor. It hasn't got much better since, and it's up and down, and you can't predict. Tourism, you can predict to a certain degree, and so that's why we decided to go with it. And luckily, it did pay off.
Okay, very good. Teresa, if I could turn to you and maybe ask you what inspired you to start this adventure, traveling off to Switzerland to learn how to make cheese?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So I suppose what inspired me was I had a keen interest in similar, to Noelle, I had a keen interest in adding value. I was really proud of coming from a dairy farm as a child growing up here. So as I said in the video, we've been producing milk here for 6 years, and I thought I'm a trained nurse. I'm a registered nurse abroad, and I had worked for 14 years and had come back. I had traveled a lot across the world, and I had seen innovation, and I was very interested in rural innovation in probably most, even the poverty-stricken countries. And I had seen people diversify even from the most basic limited resources, and that probably inspired me too, to see especially how women could adapt and work with the necessities of what they had and made the best of it. So I was always enthusiastic to see how other countries had done it. So coming home for just a holiday, I decided I'd take the leap of faith. But basically it was it was only an extended 2-week holiday, and I'm still here 6.5 years later. But I suppose the idea was to add value. I had seen my parents work extremely hard, developing the dairy herd, producing top quality milk. I could see, even with my knowledge that I did have, we produced the highest pedigree breeding cows down to grass-fed production. We're very sustainable about what we produce in Ireland. We should be extremely proud, I thought, and still we should be right now, of everything that we can do from a grass-based system. And I just suppose I wanted to be able to tell that story, especially through a product, and also to include the community, similar to what I said in the video, like to bring your family, bring your community with you, and do that education about, instead of talking at people, I said, bring it through a food production, bring it through a quality product, and explain then to farmers and to the chefs and to the restaurants and to the schools and universities about how sustainable farming is, and to be proud of what we do here in Ireland, especially in rural areas and in agriculture. So I suppose the ethos was always about education, and the ethos behind it was to know where milk comes from. And that actually started originally back in 2017 with an Irish Teagasc program, and they did a children's program, and that was one of the first things I did, even just as I started up. I don't know if that was answering the question.
Yes, but absolutely. And like with Noelle, I'm sure it wasn't without the bumps along the road. What would you say were the main challenges that you faced in setting up the business?
Yeah, it was a brand new career to me, and I found the biggest thing was to access support and to access information. That there was, it was a huge barriers there, particularly for women, trying to innovate, adding value to a farm, to come up with a new enterprise and the biggest thing for me was accessing finance, to know where the signposts weren't there. Now it's advanced hugely now, but when we did start up, I didn't have a clue where to look. So the first thing was, where do you get information about where do you start up, how to start up your business? I did do a local enterprise start your own business course at night time. Then the biggest milestones was where you don't have the expertise. Who are the expertise of people to show you how to develop a cheese manufacturing business? The whole, engineering down to design, down to money, finance. How do you know how much it's going to cost? And then the expertise at the time, there wasn't any Be an Innovator Hub. And I'm delighted to say we have one here in the west of Ireland, very proud to have it. But then I suppose this is where I was, saying that we would have had to travel to Moore Park with 1,000 litres of milk, and I needed finance, I needed money, you needed capital in your pocket, and I didn't genuinely have it. And I was like going, oh my God, like, so I took off to Switzerland. So that money I did have, I got some great fifth generation cheese making family to take me under their wing. And they kindly gave me the expertise. And also, I suppose I have to say, Marion from Kylemore Farmhouse Cheese was a neighbour of ours, and we supplied the milk as well for cheese making. And they also gave us the innovation and the start to the know-how. And I suppose you have to look at what's around you in your own context, but also look internationally to bring in something new. And but that was where the ideas drawed in. But I'm telling you, it was awful hard work. And little did I know, and maybe being naive is the best thing, because you wouldn't do it otherwise, because there so is barriers there. Access to finance, training, distribution of product, developing a product and building a factory is very difficult. You have to get everything up to, to Department of Agriculture inspections. You have to get your certificates. There's a whole science behind it. It's not, no one's at home sitting stirring a pot. It might start in your kitchen, but when you want to actually have a viable business, this takes years to get it off the ground. And you need the skills and the education, and you need the business model as well. And many of us do need the education in business as well. And I could go on, but distribution is difficult, product development, and I think you need the support on the ground, like in the very, very early startups. And
I was going to ask you that local network, or how important is that local network, or that enabling network for the likes of yourself?
Yeah, like local enterprise was there, and I have to say Teagasc was there on the steering as well in the initial early days. But I have to say there was very, very limited resources, and very limited for cheesemakers in particular. And I think there's still an awful lot of work that needs to be done in that area. We as cheesemakers are the representation of Irish quality food, and particularly for dairy, and we export 440, am I saying that right, to feed 440 million people across the globe. And I think we also need to be able to showcase that, not just as big factory outlets. We are the marketing tool for the biggest companies across Ireland as cheesemakers. And I think we need to be represented in that, in support and recognition for what we do for the Irish cheesemakers across the globe, and especially for Irish cheesemakers. But we're undervalued, and I think we're underrepresented, and we have no support. And there's a massive gap there. And that's why there's so little of us here in Ireland. And I think we do batter our wings well on the European level. I think we get very highly recognized as top quality producers, but it's just the early startups with the many fall down.
Okay, well, we will come back to that whole areas of suggestions for the future in a moment. But if I could move to Nick. Nick, you're very welcome, and thank you for sharing that video with us. I think it gives everybody a good insight to your story, and you're very, very much a family-orientated business by the sounds of it, and your upbringing as well seems to have led to this point. Could you tell us about that initial spark, or that motivation to take the leap into turning this problem into a solution, an idea, and ultimately into a business?
Yeah, I suppose I grew up on a farm, and my dad was already an entrepreneur himself. So he'd gone from milking cows and was running a commercial forestry business on the side. So I suppose diversification was kind of something the farm was already involved in. Now, the business that we're covering today, which is the Agritech business, is the third one that myself and my brother have started in terms of ventures on the farm, trying to find new ways of making a few bob. The first of them was selling firewood. The second was direct selling the organic lamb that's grown on the farm. Both relatively kind of handier businesses in terms of challenges relative to the new one, where we're involved in manufacturing and involved in animal health software. But I suppose my point would be is that we had some foundation already in terms of going after our business ideas. And I mentioned my parents in the video. They were the type that were quite happy to allow us to explore our ideas. At the same time, they were still there to say no to the silly ideas. And that was helpful as a bit of mentorship. in terms of, I suppose, what we've done on the Agritech, we came up with this piece of hardware to solve a problem of necessity. Now, I think necessity is a great starting point for a business, but I think if you're talking about what's the difference between businesses who get to launch a product and businesses that don't, it's probably talking to customers as early as possible. Now, here in Ireland, we have a great resource for people who invent things on their farm or have agricultural inventions with agricultural relevance, which is Enterprise Ireland run an innovation arena at the National Ploughing Championships, which is the biggest outdoor trade show in Europe anyway, possibly the world, if I'm correct. And we went and applied for that with the invention with really no expectations of what might come out of it. And we were very fortunate to win the Best Startup Award, Best Agricultural Engineering Award. And farmers were asking us, where can I buy it? When can I buy it? How much it's going to cost? So at that point, reasonably well established that there was something to it and it's worthwhile chasing out. So got in touch with our local enterprise office, got some funding support that was a 50% co-funding grant to do some feasibility research. And in the course of that research, we established a network of about 20 farms across Ireland and the UK, some really, really good, enthusiastic, forward-thinking sheep farmers who we could work with to develop the idea further. Now, we were lazy first. We just tried to flog what we'd already come up with, and they told us that wasn't going to work, and we needed to spend some time refining it to what was required. So we spent about 2 years, put up probably about 80,000 kilometers on a Jeep, driving around this single prototype to these 20 farms, visiting each of them every month or every 6 weeks when they were doing their sheep work. And we kept going until we got to the end when they said there was nothing more to add here, and we launched it. And now we're selling quite successfully across Ireland and the UK. There is a software side to the business. I won't go too much into that, but we're beginning to have a lot of farmers using that here in Ireland and the UK and running projects over in New Zealand with beef and lamb NZ. So that's the state of play at the minute.
Well, it's an incredible story, Nick, and how you've become an international as well, and obviously all that hard work has paid off. And I think it's a great example of how important it is to be working alongside your customers at a very early stage, and that co-design and really understanding what your customers are looking for, because sometimes that and to continue that as well. It's not just something you do at the start of the project. You must continue that getting that feedback from your customers. In terms of the landscape, like we discussed with Noelle and Teresa, that support landscape that's there. I mean, what did you find useful in terms of getting that help to get started?
Yeah, I would say we're very fortunate here in Ireland. I think often you need to go to other places to appreciate what we've got here at home. I have spent some time traveling across Europe and looking at their startup ecosystems. You look at a country like Hungary, which is one of the lowest rates of startup activity, and that's because there just isn't that ecosystem that's in place. So we're very fortunate here in Ireland. We have a local enterprise office in every county that you can work with directly in terms of getting 50% co-funding grants and availing of mentorship. And I would recommend, if you're someone with an idea in Ireland, that is where you should start. And I think that's where most of us start. In terms of support then specific to our journey, Barry mentioned the UCD Accelerator Program, which we participated on. Very, very beneficial. In particular, it gave us access to people in the agri-tech space who've already done it. So we got mentorship from Edmund Harty, who is the CEO of Dairy Master, massive international company selling milk and technology all across the world. And also Fabian Payed, who'd be the CEO of Herdwatch, which is the most used farm software in Ireland and the UK. So getting access to these people, I mean, it's just the difference between success and failure. And certainly when we were starting out, not having necessarily expertise, we had the enthusiasm, but we needed to get the knowledge. That was phenomenal. And as well, like if you didn't go to college to do business, or you feel that there's gaps in whether it's the accounting side of it, if you're an engineer, for example, and you have that side covered, unfortunately, if you want to run your own business, you will need to become familiar with all the other elements. And that's why accelerator programs are so good, because they will touch on all those elements. You can't really delegate those jobs. You can to some extent, but you need to have your eye on the ball. So getting that foundation was really helpful. in terms of other parts of the ecosystem that we found really, really helpful, AgTech Ireland, again, Barry mentioned them. That's quite a new organisation here in Ireland. It's our industry representation. It's a lobbying group essentially for the AgTech companies in Ireland, and most of us are members of it already. We organised a tour to the Netherlands in January and got to see some really forward-thinking farmers, and went to the Lely robotic milking factory, getting to work with the Department of Agriculture on issues around grant aid for these new agri-tech products to encourage adoption, and doing some more work with Teagasc as well to really get agri-tech at the forefront of advisory. So that's having a great impact, and getting to, I think, networking is underrated as an activity. My granddad always said 2 heads is better than 1, even if the other is a cabbage, and he was right. And when you can get access to individuals who already are doing what you're doing, like, business is not reinventing the wheel. You might have an innovative product, but the foundations are the same in general. So working with those companies that are already well established who are in AgTech Ireland is really helping us a lot, and we would hope to be utilising Enterprise Ireland more and more as we now begin working more internationally.
Thanks, Nick. And Barry, obviously, look, we've heard the success stories here this morning, and we know that not every idea translates into a business. You know, what are the typical stumbling blocks that you would find that rural entrepreneurs would meet along their journey?
Yeah, very interesting presentations there from the 3 entrepreneurs there, Mark. And I suppose the typical mistakes or the typical stumbling blocks that I find people make is maybe not accessing finance and bridging loans, and maybe not knowing, getting the best finance deal, and maybe this training that could be required there in terms of shopping around for the best finance deals. I think that type of training would be very, very important here. I think not getting the key decision makers involved. Nick talked about, the whole family approach towards it and the support from family. I think that's totally underestimated right across the country in terms of developing a family business, because a lot of these businesses that we're talking about here, they're family businesses. Noelle spoke about the marriage with her husband and the business as well, and trying to make it all work together. And it is a real family approach. The same as Teresa as well. It's about having, she's buying the milk from her father, and she's involved in the milking of the cows herself. It's a whole hands-on approach by the family. So I think you have to get the key decision makers involved. The family, first of all, have that family meeting, and that everyone buys into the idea. And you need to be able to convince yourself first. If you don't convince yourself that this is a viable idea, it'll be very, very difficult to convince the rest of the family. And then if you're able to convince the family and yourself, you might get further ideas along the way. You have to get other decision makers involved. It could be the bank manager. It could be the leader company. And you have to sell your idea to them, make your pitch as regards why this is a viable commercial project that you feel that you can make a business in. I think, it could be the local planning office, getting their decision makers in your project. If you have to build a new cold storage room, if you have to build glamping pods or a new self-catering units, all of that is planning, and getting the right people around you, the right innovation partners around you to bring your concept on. I think you can never invest enough time in research your idea, plan it out carefully. A lot of people underestimate budgets, Mark, as well. They underestimate and maybe try and bite off more than they can chew at the start. So they may go in too deep at the start, and their core business could suffer as a result of it. And an example of that could be for a dairy farmer. Probably should be investing in maybe roads or a tank at a particular juncture in their business, but maybe I've put a lot of money now into glamping pods or log cabins or whatever it may be, and went in too deep, and the core business suffered as a result of it. So that could be a mistake. Is sometimes you grow the business slowly within your abilities. And I think a lot of people underestimate the labour requirements on a lot of farms as well, because what happens if you're sick? And you also have to appreciate as well that that if it depends on your stage of life. If you have a young family, will those kids get away on a summer holiday? And maybe this is something that they will come to resent at a certain stage, and say their friends are getting away on a summer holiday, they're not getting away. So they're kind of typical considerations that you should have when you're developing this business, that it may be suitable at a certain stage of your life. If you have relief or if you have backup, to get away for your summer holidays, that's all good as well, but I think to ensure that the diversification project fits in with the core farming in your region is very, very important.
Noelle, do you get any summer holidays? There is a question coming in on a serious note from our audience here about, what are the disadvantages of an agri-tourism business, I suppose, in terms of contact with many customers, and you're dealing with the public. You need to be devoted to their needs.
Well, I think that was the biggest learning curve for my husband. Remember, I came from that background. He didn't.
Yes.
And I would joke that he lives on farmer time, as in everything will get done in the end. And I was thinking, if there's a problem, you need to sort it now when you're dealing with the public. The cows don't talk back, they just give you an all kick if they're not happy in the milking parlour. But when you're dealing with the public, yes, you have to be able to look after them. You have to be nearly a little mini maintenance person as well, from knowing if there's a problem with flushing toilets to if a switch goes in the house because they're all charging too many mobile phones with different adapters. There's little itty bitty things, but you learn and you develop. But it gives us the time with our children, in the sense it's not a B&B where you're there, where people are coming into your own home and you're looking after them and you're cooking the breakfast. They have their own house where they are left to their own devices, and then they can see, like, Paul be working on the farm sometimes, and they can come out and talk to him, and they'd meet me on arrival, or they'd be in touch with me. Everything anyway. I think a lot of people as well, they like to know that they can maybe WhatsApp you a quick question and stuff like that. You're just at the other end of the phone, so they want you close by to answer anything, but they like their own space, which was the whole point of self-catering. So disadvantages, okay, you mightn't be getting away in the middle of July and August, but there's certainly times of the year that you get away, maybe in the shoulder season. And then I would just block off. If I had a family event, I would block out the house. I wouldn't let anybody rent it, because I don't feel comfortable people staying and I wasn't there myself. Even if I had somebody to look after it, you just prioritize and say, okay, we're taking this week for the family holiday. We block out the dates. Nobody can book the house, and then you rest easy.
You have that control.
We have that control, exactly.
Very good. Thanks, Noelle. And Teresa, from your own perspective, like, obviously this is not just a 9-to-5 business. It's a lifestyle choice in a way. I mean, how compatible is that with family life and with having a social life?
Yeah, it's a change for sure. And I suppose, it's exciting. Like, I believe it becomes your life, and it becomes your way of life. And I suppose you adapt with it, and you have to just learn to take a little bit of time out when you can, and when, take that social aspects of your business, I suppose, and at events and meeting people and networking. But then, you do need your personal time too, of course, for everyone's own mental health and well-being as well is very important in farming. And but I think what's good about here is, in what I do, I feel people come to the farm shop, or they're here they want to come on the tour experiences, and you're always meeting new people, new cultures. I think farming itself is very isolating, and it's a lonely place in agriculture at times. So bringing people onto your farm does open that door, and I suppose there is a lot of people are actually generally very happy to be visiting you, and I feel that puts a positive light on why you're doing what you're doing. So I do feel you just have to be careful that the burnout can be there part in farming, but a burnout also in your own small business, that you're often working alone, or you have a limited amount of staff. As Barry said earlier about this, labor is difficult to get, and especially in peak season as well. So you are dependent on the people that you have around you, and your family and your neighbours, and whoever can come in and give you a hand if you are stuck. So you bring everyone with you on board, but it's tough to stay going, but you have to keep going.
Obviously, the advantages outweigh the negatives when it comes to the project, and must be very exciting to see your own product being on the shelves of supermarkets. And this is something I often see with speaking to people like yourself, that pride that's there when you see people consuming your products.
Yes, absolutely. And yesterday we were at the Irish Cheese Awards in down in Tipperary, so Kilshane House, and it was we do it once a year. Well, this year was our first time to see all cheesemakers together, and I'm saying it's a great social event to say hello to each other and anyone in the food industry and buyers as well. So yeah, it's something proud to come home with 2 medals yesterday, a silver and a bronze for our cheeses, and which, you know, that enthusiasm and it drives you on to get through the next season as we start our cheese making. So we're just kicking off again a new season, and we produce from April to October. And you know, that comes with anxiety too, because you know you want to produce what you can to the best quality, and you're at the same time trying to sell what you do have on your shelves to balance the books up, as we said, and to keep the show on the road. Yeah, so agritourism is really kicking off as well. So we've started our season in that area too. So I have to say, yeah, it's great to be at it. Yeah.
Right. Nick, if we're to look at that supporting environment there for entrepreneurs and reflecting on the journey that you have taken so far, and what sort of recommendations would you have for the policymakers, the researchers, the training institutions to just make life a little bit easier for entrepreneurs, or to that passage a little bit easier?
Yeah, I think I suppose specific to agri-tech, there's a huge push for sustainability, and technology is one of the main ways. I mean, aside from cutting livestock numbers, which obviously no one wants, we need to encourage technology adoption as far as possible. And I suppose the first step is the development of the technology, and we need better test spaces for entrepreneurs. We were very lucky that we just picked up the phone and farmers were nice enough to lend us their time for free and their animals, and took a punt on us. But there's many others who are left stranded and don't have a development space. And I look at a country like France in particular, the French Livestock Institute. They have what's called DG Fermes, which is 5 of each type of livestock farm, so 5 sheep, 5 dairy, 5 beef, where technology companies can come and test their technology in a risk-free zone, that the outcome is going to be whatever the outcome is, but they have space where they can develop and they can work with researchers. And I think Teagasc, the UCD Lions Farm, could learn from this, and that would probably increase the level of success that we see. On the second side, then we have obviously adoption and trying to drive that, and that's where I'd say the grant aid system that we have here in Ireland, the Targeted Agricultural Modernisation Scheme, is probably a little bit out of date in terms of reference costs are too low, so the effective grant tends to be quite small, and the administration of the programme could be better. I suppose, again, I'd look at inspiration. A country like Australia, the New South Wales region has just announced a Farms of the Future AgTech grant scheme, and they're grant aiding at a 70% rate, just specific tech that delivers on government priorities. And how fantastic is that, to get the technology on farm? The companies can report the results back, and then we have credible things that we can point to that the farmers are doing to demonstrate to the public that we're doing everything we can do to be sustainable. And I think we have more work to be done in those 2 areas to really see better technology adoption and to see more of an AgTech industry. But I mean, we're on a good path overall. I think AgTech Ireland, I think there's good engagement with Enterprise Ireland, and Teagasc would be quite positively disposed to encouraging it. So we're on a good path, but more work to be done, definitely.
Thanks, Nick. And yes, we have had very positive discussions with AgTech Ireland in recent times. So I suppose watch that space, and we hope that we have positive outcomes from that. Teresa, from your perspective, reflecting on your journey and the I suppose what you described, it doesn't sound like it was a tough journey at times. You know, for those coming after you as rural entrepreneurs, what changes would you like to see, or areas that you think need to be worked on here in Ireland to create that more supportive environment for rural entrepreneurs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an exciting time for people to enter into the rural innovation and developing businesses on farms. I think what would make it way more easier is, well, if I, was starting again, was you know, we can have low cost loans, but we need it at a low interest rate, you know, particularly for people who don't have, you know, their own farms, particularly, or something, a herd number in their own name. But if you could have something that banks could give you a low cost loan, but has to have a low interest rate. Leader funding is brilliant. I've availed of it myself, and I continue, and I wouldn't be able to do it without it. But the biggest problem with Leader is you need to have the money up front. So you have to have the full amount up front to get the grant, 50% of the grant back. And that, you know, has its barriers too. And the paperwork needs to be simplified, because the people that help you are brilliant, who help you to, you know, to draw it down. But there's a lot of paperwork, and it still needs a lot of work to be simplified further again. And that would, I think that would incentivize people more to access it, if it wasn't such a barrier with all of what you need to have it. Planning permission needs to be more flexible on farms. The vacant home grant scheme isn't available for businesses on farms, for farm businesses in agriculture. It's only available for commercial, you know, for private residential property. And that's a barrier. Like here, I have lovely old sheds, and dying to get them going. And, you know, there's, you know, and everything, you've got low cost you know, with low cost finance, there's an SCBI grant, SCBI bank loan there. But again, that's attached with environmental restrictions. So if you're producing carbon emissions, they say, or dairy, or you're in food production, and it needs, it's, you know, creating air miles, and you have to transfer by plane, we're eliminated. So there's low cost loans there coming out of the EU, but we're not able to avail of it as farm food producers, and that's a big barrier. So I think, you know, flexibility there, you know, again, let farmers be incentivized them through, like, grants are there. Then you've got the farm buildings grant, but you have to be attached to an eco scheme. So there is everything there for traditional farm buildings grants, but we can't get them. And, you know, it's stopping people trying to innovate on farms. Farmers are innovators. They're doing it every day. And I think it's a big trendy word now, but I think everyone is innovating. All of us here today are innovating. But I think we just have to simplify it and make it less restrictive. And I suppose, you know, all the grants that are there, it just needs to be broken down and open up the doors. I think for cheesemakers, I have to kind of shout out for them as well. And I think we do need someone on the ground, even from, you know, where we have, for technology, we have breakdown in machinery. If we had someone on foot like they have in Europe, where if there's a breaking down with your vat, or you have a chemical, you know, you have something with dairy production that's going wrong, that you could have an advisor that will be able to come out to you and discuss issues. And because you're losing product, you've often lost a couple of €1,000 just in one day's production. And it's a big loss, and there's no compensation there for that. So yeah, if we had an advisor on the ground, distribution, if there was something easier to help us distribute our product to get into places, I think that would help. And then the farmers, educating the farmers, don't forget they are the food producers, but I think we should be able to showcase them with agricultural colleges. If there was, I think there's a huge initiative there through Denmark, Norway and Sweden, and I've heard that it's been very successful Erasmus program, where they collaborate farmers with the likes of, say, Be Innovator Hub, which they might be doing this as well. But the idea will be that you're connecting the farmers with the producers, and that the farmers are also getting the innovation ideas, like the people who are in the likes of the Be Innovator Hubs, and you're educating that they get to come onto farms. The biggest thing is you have to get people onto the farms to see where the people are producing and tell their stories, and that'll innovate them then to get their next generation of younger generations to come forward with new ideas. So the ag colleges are responsible as well. I feel that they need to be able to have the resources, but they also need to be able to not be so restrictive of each sector, that there should be an innovative part.
Absolutely. No, that makes complete sense, and it's great to hear that from your own experience. And Noelle, if I could ask the same question of you from your journey to date, you know, what would you like to see change there for budding entrepreneurs, rural entrepreneurs there, to make that journey a little bit easier?
Well, I suppose the biggest, issue for, let's say, people like myself on farms that want to diversify into the whole accommodation sector is the housing crisis, because at the moment there wasn't really an issue as regards deciding to change the planning permission of the house that you would have, whether you do it short-term or long-term rental. But ever since the rent pressure zones came in and the government have had their housing for all policy, they've put a lot of pressure on people. They've made it very difficult to go into this area. And there needs to be a balance, I think, between tourism and housing. Unfortunately, Airbnb seems to be a dirty word for a lot of places, and it kind of feeds into, it has a knock-on effect, and that those of us then in agriculture that are trying to diversify into slow tourism or tourism on the farm. And I mean, if you're talking about sustainability, I mean, old buildings, like Teresa was saying, she'd have her farm. If she wanted to develop them into accommodation, I mean, how sustainable is it just to develop what's already there instead of building from scratch, and bring people in closer to nature for health and well-being? I think that's will be the future going forward from a tourism perspective, especially Ireland. I mean, what are we selling abroad? We're green, the Emerald Isle, our green fields, our cows, our sheep, our food products, our best dairy, cream, cheese in the world. So I think that will be our future. And I mean, the Japanese have a thing called forest bathing, where you literally just walk through a forest. I mean, if you can get somebody to come to your farm, just the fact that they're in nature is hugely, I think, innovative and popular going forward. Like I was saying earlier, that we seem to be getting away from the land. Generations, people are living more kind of, I won't say in silos, but they're in cities, they're more congregated. They need to be brought back into the land, and tourism is a great opportunity for them to do that. But the planning is the big problem in this country. They need to sort it out. They need to make it easier for farmers to diversify into accommodation on their farm, whether they're in a rent pressure zone or not, which I am in Killarney. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, they're putting obstacles in people's way. They want us to reduce our numbers for climate change, but how are we going to do that? I mean, if you're, let's say, a family and you're trying to maybe not increase your herd, but you don't have the necessary technical skills to do X, Y, or Z, accommodation is the easier thing for you to go into with buildings that are already there. So that's where I think policymakers should look at as regards from an accommodation point of view. You have to have a balance between tourism and housing needs, especially with all the money put into greenways, blueways. I mean, County Waterford has got a fantastic greenway, but it's a rent pressure zone. You wouldn't get planning permission now if you wanted to set up maybe glamping pods or huts or renovate an old farm building for tourists, so the government need to take that into account.
Yeah, there needs to be a better
there needs to be a bit of a balance.
Yeah. No, that's and that's coming through today. I think that joined up thinking between different organizations, particularly I suppose on the tourism side, you've Fáilte Ireland, you have Bord Bia on the food side of things as well. So there's definitely an opportunity there to have a little bit more connectivity. And I think also I was involved in a project a number of years ago where they identified that need for maybe better marketing at a regional level or local marketing support for rural businesses. We're coming close to the end of today's session. I can't believe that hour and a bit has disappeared so quickly. Barry, have you any final comments that you'd like to make just in terms of that global picture on entrepreneurship and supporting entrepreneurship in Ireland? I mean, absolutely, there seems to be a renewed interest in supporting this across Europe, and talking to a colleague yesterday and in Madrid, her new role includes the title Rural Entrepreneurship, supporting that. Where do you see that going in Ireland?
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, Mark, and sometimes it could be just being exposed to new ideas. Like hearing our entrepreneur speaking today could be the spark for somebody else, and that's why I think our farm business options courses, that's what they're really all about, is to try and spark that idea, that to give people that bit of confidence to say, do you know what, I could actually do that. I've listened to Noelle, I've listened to Teresa, I've listened to Nick, and they could inspire other people to do something different with their assets, because farmers are sitting on very valuable assets, i.e. their land. Very often they just want to produce food or think it's only food that they can produce, but we have seen people producing snails on the land, and it might be a small area of ground producing different producing artisan foods, chutneys, preserves, jams, go down the food route. direct marketing, vending machines, selling their own milk. So we're seeing, a vast array of new areas that farmers are realizing they can get involved in. Sometimes it's not the farmers themselves. It could be their sons or daughters, like in Teresa's case, who's setting up the diversification idea. They want to live in the home place. They don't, in some cases, they don't want to farm the land. They don't want to keep cows. They don't want to keep cattle, but they would like the opportunity to live in their rural area where they grew up and set up a business. And it may not require a lot of land to do that. But I think farmers they're well suited to business startups. They're multi-skilled. They can do welding, they can do machinery repairs, they can do plumbing and electrical work. They're very disciplined as well about their work. They're very familiar with handling their own finances. And I think when you're setting up a business, this is key to it as well, being able to manage the money. They usually have the assets, have the stock. They're dealing with assets such as stock and land and buildings and managing all of that. I think there's a very hard-working ethic there, Mark, as well, in the whole area of agriculture. And I know an awful lot of people, they would say if somebody from a rural area or from a farming background applies for a job, they're the ones that they'll try and employ because they know there's a very strong work ethic in where they've come from. And they're very familiar with dealing with people, whether it's buying, selling at marts, buying cattle, selling cattle. They're good. They have good people skills. And I think in a lot of rural households, the women have fantastic skills at meeting people, especially in the likes of tourism. There's fantastic skills there. And very often it's women from outside that marry into a farm that bring those skills as well. Like in Noelle's case as well, that can set up a thriving business. So I leave it at that there, Mark.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Yes, no, you've touched on it all, and I think it's quite obvious that the common themes that are coming through there this morning. But hard work is obviously at the top of the list there, and self-belief, and I think you've all demonstrated that you have those in spades. So I want to say thank you so much to Noelle, Nick, and Teresa for joining us this morning and sharing your stories, excellent stories, your honest and inspiring stories, and just how there are opportunities there for people. I know, Barry, yes, it's not for everybody, but I think there's a lot of potential out there, untapped potential across Ireland that our rural entrepreneurs have the ability to untap. So we're coming up to 20 past 11. Thank you to our audience for joining us this morning across Europe, and we hope that you found this morning's session useful. The next of the series is going to be hosted by our friends and colleagues in AFBI in Northern Ireland, and that takes place on the afternoon of the 9th of May, and we've included a link to that within the chat function there if you want to access that, and we'll send you on a link afterwards also. Barry, thanks so much for your help in organising today and your contribution today, and to all of the team, Owen Carton, Paul Maher and Michelle Lavelle for making today happen. And a reminder that today's session is recorded and will be available on the Teagasc YouTube channel over the coming days. So thanks again and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.